Hi, namaste, and welcome to Breakout with me, Abha. Thank you so much for watching. You know, we bring to you exceptional people over here, game changers, rule makers, rule breakers, people who have been there and done that, the mavericks. And guess what? They are here to demystify this whole rules game for us so that we can break out of what we find intimidating or limiting and break into something that we find absolutely necessary for us. They are going to teach us how, because from them we learn there is only one rule to life, and that is that there are no rules to life. We just make them up all on the way. My guest today, you see this lovely lady sitting right next to me. She is a certified financial planner with an MBA in finance and has over 25 years of experience in financial services. In 2014, she was named an ambassador for the CFP board, one of only 50 in the United States. Recently, she's written a book called The Money Queen's Guide for Women Who Want to Build Wealth and Banish Fear. And this book was named one of the 10 best books to make you rich. You know what's coming.
Yes.
You know what's coming. Because of her credentials, she is frequently sought after for expert advice on TV, on all kinds of media. She's been on the Today Show, CNN, CNBC, CBS, Fox News, ABC, name it, she's been there. She's been covered by Wall Street, Newsday, New York Post, USA Today. There's a long list there, so we're going to talk about it a little bit later. But we need to learn something from her because her book is one of the best sellers today, talking about some of the best things about money. She is currently the managing director of United Capital and divides her time between New York and Florida, where she is a yoga instructor in her free time. Now, you know what kind of people we get here. Please welcome Cary Carbonaro. Cary, how are you?
Thank you. Great. So happy to be here.
I am so glad that you could make it, and it's early in the morning there, I guess. It's pretty hot today for you, and I can see your book in the background, Money Queen's Guide. We're going to talk about it in a while. Cary, tell me, you've been in this field for 25 years.
Correct.
And
It's a
you are
long
now
time.
doing great work helping people understand and sort of, deconstruct this whole mindset about money, especially
Yes.
women. So where
Yes.
did it all start? And give us your early background. Let us know what you did earlier, your lifestyle earlier, and your lifestyle now, what do you do now? In what manner do you deal with money today?
Sure. Well, I guess we'll start out way back when. So I was raised by my dad, who was a banker. So he was a banker who believed, Carrie, you can do anything you want to do in your life. Like he told me I could be president if I wanted to be president. So this is how I was raised. And I was raised in a open money family. That's what I call it, because we spoke about money all the time. My dad and I had a strong connection around money,
Right.
which is from what I'm told rare.
It is. It is. Yes.
The way he raised me, being a money man, and then my mom was a CPA. She went to school
Oh,
later in life, but she was the woman who stayed at home. And, it's interesting. So early on in my life, I watched my dad and I said, I want that. I want to be the one who makes the decisions, who has the money, who has the freedom, who doesn't have to stay home and take care of, domestic things. I don't
right.
I don't want to do that.
Right.
I want what he's doing.
Right.
And so that really clouded my judgment or shaped my judgment of what I wanted to do with my life.
Right.
And I never felt that, a woman had to be stay at home and non breadwinner and all that kind of stuff, because
Right.
it just wasn't me.
Right.
So my whole life has always been women can make money, women can be powerful, women can be own their financial future. And
Right.
so my whole life has been about that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in college, the other thing is women also, with our fears and our anxieties and our insecurities, that's what we are. We have that. We
Right.
can't help it. No matter who you are, no matter how wealthy or beautiful or whatever, you always just feel not good enough or whatever. So we have issues with that.
Right.
We struggle.
Right.
And, so one of the things I did when I was in college is I started a sorority for girls in my college. I founded it. And so it's actually been going on now for 25 plus years. And I wanted to create a place where women felt safe
Right.
and kind of like home. And so anyway, that was my first entree sort of into business and also helping women at the same time.
Right.
So I really feel that it's my lifelong dharma to be able to do this for women.
Right.
And I decided to do it around money.
Mm-hmm. That's actually a good thing to do, because I think we need that learning in our life. We need to learn and need to understand what money can do for us and why it is not impossible to work around it.
Right. And it's interesting. So, not to generalize, but, generally, women just have a little bit more of an issue with money than men because we have emotional attachment to it more than men. Not every man, and not every woman, but overall, women in general have emotional attachments to money. And therefore, it actually helps them or hurts them because they make poor decisions sometimes surrounding it.
Right.
When they attach a feeling to it.
Right. So in your book, The Money Queen's Guide, which talks about this, and you very clearly say that women, like you're just saying, they often struggle with the whole idea of money, and they cannot balance. They cannot balance the success of whatever success they have and the success with money, and they don't kind of figure out that there's a bridge in there. There's actually a gap that can easily be filled. From the emotional space to the physical space. So tell us more about the book. Tell us what it is about, and tell us what people are going to take away from the book.
Sure. So now it's funny because a lot of people always ask me, like, what is the book about and why did you write the book? And so I'm going to answer that both at the same time. So the book is actually, in my head, it was two books. So it was one book, which is what I've seen with my clients for the past 25 years, specifically the women clients, what they've done right, what they've done wrong, what they could learn from, lessons learned, and then I broke it down to 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and different life events.
Right.
So, your first job, your first marriage, your first divorce, all different, and becoming an empty nester, your first child, all different things that women go through in their lives that create, some sort of stress or some sort of change. So that was the first part of the book. The other part of the book, which is actually the beginning of the book, was my life story and my divorce and what I went through and the mistakes that I made. So here I am, incredibly knowledgeable about money, teaching it all day long, every day, making all the right moves, listening to all my own advice. And then I go through a financially devastating divorce where somebody has betrayed me financially. So it's kind of overwhelming and incredible at the same time. And, I talk about what I did, how I went through my emotional crisis and my financial crisis, how I came out of it, how I came out on the other side, and what to do so that you don't do the same thing as I did.
Right. This is, and that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. How important is marriage or choosing your partner for your financial future? So now that you mentioned it, I think it's one of the key things that most women would never probably think of, because when you're younger, when you want to get married, it's all love, it's all mush, it's all nice, and you never ever think of we don't want to think about this. Nobody sort of factors this in.
Right.
You don't factor in a separation. You don't factor in what will happen after that. So it's very difficult when it happens at some point in life later, and you feel like you rightly said, you feel betrayed, you feel shattered, but there's emotion involved in there. There's pain involved in there. You don't know what to do. So what would be your advice now when women go out choosing their partners? Because we live in different culture. I don't know. Because I know America, people talk about this side. We don't even talk. We are not supposed to. We can't ask what is the financial condition or the financial status. We know vaguely. We know what the person does, but we are not supposed to ask. So how does one deal with that?
Ooh, that's really hard because it's funny because so I had what was called, I don't know if you ever heard of the term financial infidelity.
Right.
So financial infidelity is when somebody is lying to you about important financial life decisions,
Right.
either their credit score, their debt, their assets, something which is a big lie. And it, most marriages end, the two things that marriages end over is money or infidelity. And it's funny because when you talk about financial infidelity, it's actually both
Both of them.
because it's both.
Right.
It's interesting. So back to choosing your partner and how do you decide? So, well, what I tell everybody now, which is, I guess is different in your culture, is to be get financially naked. I don't know if you ever heard that term either, where before you even get serious, before you go down the aisle, before you decide to merge your lives, you
Right.
need to have a full inventory of what you're getting yourself into.
Right.
With credit scores and debt and assets and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
income, earning potential, any skeletons in the closet, like some bad student loans, or that's a big thing in the United States.
Right.
So um, you need to know. I actually had somebody recently tell me, I was on TV on Monday, and the woman that was doing my makeup said, I broke up with my boyfriend, not my husband, my boyfriend, because he had all the student loan debt. And I said, I am not marrying that.
Mhm. That's true actually, but yeah, I mean we have cultural issues over here. However, let me just sort of leave it out in the open for everybody who's listening and watching. Your marriage can change your finances in a huge way. So not just that you can get richer too, you can get better too, but well, it can go the other way as well. So be careful. And Carrie has used the word called financially naked, financial infidelity. You have to have information and you have to ask these questions, understand what you're getting into, because that can be a lifelong, marriage is a lifelong commitment. It's nice and sacred. We fall in love, we get married, but then we get married to the rest of the stuff as well.
Right.
So
Exactly.
that's it. So let's move on from there. It's like people must be thinking, what are we talking about? We got to learn about money. Okay, so tell me, with women, if we forget the marriage part, we are very motivated today. We are all very educated. We very motivated to make money. We want to help our families. We want to support what's going on. We want to come in as the uh, contributory partners in what's going on.
Yes.
But still, our relationship with money is more like a stressful, misunderstood one.
Yes.
We are always acting from the background, not from the front.
Right.
And
Well,
especially it's more for men, it's less for women. So when they come into this role, they are like all over the place. What does one do with that?
so I think there's two things with that. First, women, again, back to our relationship with money, right? So, and I say we have a unique relationship with money because women have, a lot of women have what's called the bag lady fear. Have you heard of that?
Yes.
Okay, so I talk a lot about that in my book.
Talk about
It's not
money, you're bad.
right. So here's the bag lady fear, which comes out, says, that women are afraid that they're going to be homeless and penniless and living on the street.
Right.
And what's interesting is I talk about a study in my book that women who make over $200,000 US,
Right.
that 27% of those women also have the bag lady fear.
Hmm.
Now, what's interesting about that is 200,000 US is, a top wage earner for a woman or a man, but especially for a woman.
Right.
And because we have the pay wage gap.
Right.
And you should be okay at that level and not have to worry that you're going to be homeless on the street. However, 27% of us are, and I am one of those.
Right.
So in order to delay or allay the fears that you have or surrounding money, knowledge is power. So that's my whole being in life, is to educate and make women financially literate so that they don't make the mistakes, so that they are comfortable with money, so
Right.
that they do all the right things, so that they have their nest egg, so that they can be financially secure, financially free, not dependent on a man if they don't want to be. It's more of a partnership.
Right.
And that's really, and so they don't have to compromise themselves. And money is a tool to help you do that so that you can live your most authentic life.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I think that applies even to the younger generation because we don't teach them these things. I don't
Yes.
think it's taught in college, it's not taught in our institutions, that money is a tool and it should be understood, neither
Yes.
feared nor being one of those overwhelming things in our life. But we need to understand what. So we don't give that education in school. So it's only
No.
great for you that you had a dad who was a banker or your mom,
Yeah.
and they were talking about money all the time. But a lot of people, I don't think. I mean, I come across so many different people who do not sort of get it right. That it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to understand, but it's always driven by fear,
Yes.
right?
It's driven by fear and also culturally as well. I mean, even in the United States, it's not it's a taboo subject. I mean,
Oh,
we talk about sex, we talk about, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but we won't talk about money.
right, right. So I mean, we are worse. We don't even talk about sex. So so even that's taboo over here. So both of us can talk about sex and money. So we'll talk about it in a little bit from here. So tell me, my next question. One of your writings, one of your interviews said, how does one, how do you stretch your paycheck? So if, for example, we are living in a limited amount of money, for example, per month this much. So if we were to stretch that paycheck, what could we do? I mean, logically, I would think watch out for the expenses or understand what you're doing with the money, how to grow the money. You tell us what we
Okay,
can.
sure. So, well, I know that. So, stretching your paycheck, the most important thing that I tell everyone, and if anybody takes one thing away, I want them to know what's coming in and what's going out every single month or every single week if you're going paycheck to paycheck by week.
Right.
So, that is such a basic thing that anybody can do. I always say you could do it on a napkin. You don't need anything fancy.
Right.
You need a piece of paper and a pen, or a napkin and a pen.
Hmm.
And anybody can do it, and everybody should know it. And I can't even tell you how many people don't know those numbers.
Right.
So that's step one. So how can you stretch it if you don't even know what's coming in and what's going out?
Right.
Right?
Right.
So, and then I have I talk about a lot of different ways to stretch the paycheck where, in the United States, we have what's called withholdings, which is from our taxes.
Right.
So if you change the withholdings, you get more in your paycheck every month.
Right.
So that's a great way for people to do it.
Uh-huh.
We also talk about like maybe refinancing your mortgage because mortgage rates are low right now, and rates are low actually everywhere,
Right.
all over the world right now. So if you have a mortgage and you have good credit, it's a good time to look at refinancing because you could save a lot of money on your biggest expense, which is most people's biggest expense, which is their mortgage or their housing.
Right. So, what about debt? Now, we are talking about this. People don't like the idea of debt. There's student loans and other ways of using debt, but we hate the idea of getting stuck in a debt.
Right.
And then people want to spend a whole lifetime paying it back. Students, the younger ones, spend a whole lifetime paying it back. And it affects your marriage, it affects your financial condition, it affects everything else that you do. So, do you also in the book speak about how to use debt, how to
Yes.
understand debt, and why it is
Yes.
important to be able to see through what it can do for you, but manage it through the time that you're using the debt?
Yes. Absolutely. So it's funny. The one thing I didn't talk about in the book because I feel so strongly about it, and I probably should have, but in my head, when I talked about credit card debt,
Yes.
credit card debt, I feel, is the only consumer debt that you should not be carrying.
Hmm.
I feel it should be paid off in full every single month. End of story.
Right.
And so that's not even up for negotiation with me. It is a bill. If you do not have the money to pay it off at the end of the month, you do not charge it. You
Right.
you have to pay it off at the end of the month no matter what, and use it as a credit cards as your convenience. But I do talk about mortgages and I talk about student loans,
Right.
both of which are important, especially a mortgage. There's almost nobody in this United States and the world that can buy a home without a mortgage.
Right.
It's a necessary debt, and actually it's what I consider a good debt.
Right.
Because you're building equity, you're getting into a home, you're deducting it potentially on your tax return. So, but my most important thing with that is to do it responsibly.
Right.
So, we had the financial crisis everybody did, but started in the US.
Right.
We had the debt, we had the credit crisis in '07, and then the financial crisis in '08 and '09. And it all started from, subprime mortgages and, junky mortgages and people who shouldn't have gotten mortgages,
Right.
getting repackages and sold all over the world. So what happened was those people who were getting mortgages that they couldn't afford, I don't know if they didn't know what they didn't know or they were just getting it because they could.
Right.
So back in the day, that was like, 2008, 2006, 7, around then. Anybody could get a mortgage no matter what. No income, no assets, no checking, no credit. They called them ninja loans.
Right.
And so anybody could get a mortgage and they shouldn't have.
Right.
And, all those people lost their houses and they got foreclosed. And I mean, financially devastating, emotionally devastating, uprooting families and lives. If you make, $20,000 a year and you're buying a $500,000 house, you're a little bit out of your mind to think that this is okay and you're going to be able to afford this. And so I give the very conservative calculation in the book on what you should go for and how much you can afford
Right.
without strapping yourself.
Right. This is like 2 decades ago when we saw this credit card thing. Everybody could get a credit card.
Yes.
Everybody was getting a credit card. Everybody was spending and overspending, and eventually, the same thing happened. So you can't pay it back. So that brings me to the credit rating, because let's talk about good debt.
Sure.
That you need to have a comfortable and a smart credit score over there.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
anywhere in the world. I mean, it's called credit score in the US, but all over the world, wherever you go, look for a loan or something, you need to have in the background a certain amount of credibility
Right.
about you being able to pay the loan back. So, what is
Right.
your advice on that? Because a lot of people I've seen, like they can get one, so they'll take one.
Right.
So that's the easy part. There's something is wrong there. But in the normal circumstance, you need to be having a sufficient amount of ability to pay the stuff back.
Yes. So I do talk about how a credit score is calculated and managing credit wisely. So it's very important. I mean, your credit score will affect you you get it when you're in your 20s and you don't, and then it carries throughout your entire life.
Right.
So it's incredibly important. And what's interesting is, so there's so many great tools out there to help you manage your credit. All the credit bureaus. I've worked with Experian, and Experian does a credit chat once a week. They have all this amazing information, blogs and videos and all these things that you can go online and get. And I know the other ones do as well. I've just worked with Experian on theirs. It's all free. It's all this amazing information. You can get your credit score free, at least in the United States, from annually. I'm sure you can get it anywhere else as well.
Right. So my next question to you is, so let's come out to this is the real world thing. Let's get to the head of not just women, but let's figure. There is this huge thing about our mindsets around money, and
Yes.
we are almost always there's so many things. I mean, we talk about culture here. We don't talk about money as openly as we can do in the West.
Right.
Because I go and teach money and people say, look at this woman, she has no shame. Look at it. This is not stuff we talk about. Money is like, it's like, because we have a goddess of money, and I'm supposed to zip it up. So we don't talk about money. So if I talk about money, I'm this ambitious, and she's talking money. She's too smart. She's looking for this. She's looking for that. So they make up all kinds of stories. Apart from that, we come from places and we're conditioned to think very poorly about money, right? So I think I want you to tell us and tell everybody who's watching and listening just now that there is a mindset of money, and that money needs to be clearly that mindset of poverty, or a mindset of not having enough, mindset of not being able to probably make it. All those things need to be thrown out of the system. And how can we do that?
Yes, so it's funny because to me, that's a combination of two other books which are fabulous to me. And actually, my book is the same way, but their books are completely about the mind, right? So, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill,
Right.
which is a classic book. has been around for a long time,
Right.
and it's all about here. It's
Right.
think and grow rich,
Right.
think and grow rich. So it's all about your mindset around money and having, your mastermind group with you
Right.
and just completely positive thoughts about money. And then the second one that comes to mind is The Secret,
Right.
which is the same thing. The power of attraction. Whatever you think about in your life, you will attract in your life.
Right.
So when you think about money, you will get money.
Right.
And I actually heard Deepak Chopra speak once about money, and he said, something about fundraising, and somebody said, well, where's the money going to come from? And he goes, it's going to come from wherever it is in the universe
Right.
to wherever it needs to go to.
Right.
So it's just about money flowing
Right.
and the power of it and the mindset and the intention
Right.
and all the positive feelings and thoughts around it.
Right.
So it really is, if you have the scarcity mentality, you're going to feel scarce.
Right.
You're going to feel poor.
Right.
If you have the abundance mentality, you're going to feel it and you're going to experience it. If that makes sense. I know it's a little bit, so that's a little bit Eastern versus Western, but I still
No,
believe in it.
I completely agree with what you say. I'm going to add another two books over there, and one is The Power of Subconscious Mind, which I believe is yet another. It's not about money, but it's clearly about being able to rewire what you're thinking and how you're thinking about it. And the second book, I believe, was one that I read a long time ago, but it did have an impact on my mind in terms of understanding. And because I was trying to teach this and I needed to understand how to teach it, I did not know how to teach it. So T. Harv Eker's book, The Millionaire Mind, The Secrets of a Millionaire Mind, or something like that. That's T. Harv Eker's book. So now your book is there, The Money Queens Guide. That's for women. You've got to understand what's going on there and basically change your inner version of what money is, and the outer is bound to change. There's no
Yes.
other way. It can
Yes.
happen no other way. So be very confident. You got to understand the inner game too. Change the inner game, change the outer game. So Cary, give us some tips. We're getting to the end of the interview. We need to de-stress ourselves about this money and get our financial health and wealth and thing healthier. Okay, so
Yes.
we need to get healthier financially. We need to de-stress ourselves. So give us some nice 5 things to do right away.
Sure. So the first thing I always tell people, which we a little bit talked about before, but just make sure you know what's coming in and what's going out every month.
Right.
That's step one. Step two, credit cards are not free money. So do not use them as such. They do
Right.
not stopgap your lifestyle. You need to pay them off every single month.
Right.
So do not become a debtor. Step three, do not overspend on your mortgage. Make sure that you know that you're not going into something that will eventually cause you stress later down the road.
Right.
Number four, know your net worth. So your net worth doesn't equal your self-worth, but your net worth is your assets minus your liabilities equals your net worth.
Right.
And if it's negative, it's okay. You work to make it positive.
Right.
The fact that you don't know what it is probably why it's negative, right?
Right. Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
And lastly, what I always tell women, which because I feel so strongly about it, is learn financial literacy and then teach it to your children.
Absolutely.
Because it is the most important lesson you can teach your children, and it's nowhere else.
Right. I think it's part of, if I can say, parent leadership. This is one of the things that needs to go to your kids. And it's not just the men, not the dads. It's the moms who got to start doing that now. So that's cool. So, Cary, last question. What would you tell yourself? You've probably made mistakes, and all of us do. What would you tell yourself and tell all of us what we were supposed to do in our 20s?
So, well, it's funny because I actually listened to my advice in my 20s. So, I started my 401k right away, which was a fabulous thing. And by the time I was in my 30s, or by the time I was 30, I had over 6 figures
Right.
in, starting at 22. So definitely do that. What I did wrong and what I would change if I could is I would not have married the man that I married.
That's
So
actually great advice. We got to watch
I
out.
mean, and it's what's interesting is, so my parents did not approve, and maybe that's a great red flag. If your parents don't approve, find out why. Maybe they know more than you do because you're clouded by what you think is love.
Right.
And just, go slow, don't rush. Make sure you're 100% sure with your spouse, because it's a life changer.
Right.
positive or negative.
Right, right, right. I completely agree with that one. So, Carrie, thank you very much. I think that was that's very basic what we talked about, but I think we need to talk about it more often, and we need to have people like yourself guiding all other women and men, of course, out there to understand money and not just feel scared and overwhelmed by what money is taught to us, and change the inner game, change the outer game, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So, thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So everybody watching, listening, this is Cary Carbonaro, and she's the author of the Money Queen's Guide. You can find her on themoneyqueensguide.com. That's her website, www.themoneyqueenguide.com.
No, Money Queen
Queen,
Guide.
not Queen.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, no, just Money Queen Guide, not
Okay, I'm
the.
sorry. My fault.
Just,
It's the Money Queen Guide. So
no,
it's
no, just Money Queen Guide.
I am sorry. Once more time, it's www.moneyqueenguide.com.
Yes.
MONeyqueenguide.
No, GI.
Guide. Guide. You know
Yeah.
what guide is. Don't ask me the spellings. So it's moneyqueenguide.com. Cary Carbonaro. Don't get scared of people who talk about finance because they are as good as doctors. They are as good as lawyers. They can save you a lot of trouble in life. So look out for Cary on her site, www.moneyqueenguide.com. I got it right. Thank you,
Yes.
Cary. Bye bye.
Hey, bye.